We cut ourselves off from the flow of light when we judge. Right? Now, one way to think about this is, God is totally accepting. God does not judge. God's light, God's creation, God encompasses all things. Right? And so when we judge, we are in opposition, right, to God. So we are in opposition to the light. We are like opposite to what is of the nature of God, right? So in those moments when we're judging, we cut off the flow of light in our lives for that moment. Okay? Now, there's a difference between this kind of deep acceptance that I'm talking about and versus allowing people to walk all over us in our own lives, which is not what I'm talking about, right? We can absolutely accept others for how they are, who they are, how they wish to be, and yet erect boundaries between us and them. The famous, I don't exactly remember who said this, but there's a famous line about boundaries that I love, which is boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and myself at the same time. Right? And so as you know, Gevurah is a sephirah on the tree of life and is there to help us, among other things, to help us see the value of boundaries and to help us establish boundaries in our lives. And Gevurah is right so close to God on the tree, So this is intended to show us, in part, that boundaries are not a bad thing. In fact, they are very holy. They are very necessary because they are safeguarding your beautiful essence, your beautiful life, your beautiful experience. So, but if you notice on the tree, Gevurah is paired with Hesed, which is that total acceptance of God that we're talking about. And so one sort of great takeaway here is that in order to have that great, open, divine acceptance of others, in order to not judge, we actually need to have really strong and good boundaries. It's necessary. In fact, it is the boundaries that allow us to be so open and accepting. So we do not need to attack or denigrate the things that we do not wish to have in our lives. That is what is judgment. We simply erect a boundary that thing is not in our lives, that thing is at a distance from us such that we are able to interact with it and be accepting of it, whatever that distance might be. Maybe for you, just to make an example, maybe for you, you only look at the news once a week. Maybe that's the boundary that allows you to be accepting of the world. Maybe for someone else, it's once a day, So there's no right or wrong here, right? What would that be? That would be a judgment against yourself. So the only question is, to find that perfect good balance for you, right? And then to work with that, right? So opinions, to just sort of circle around opinions for a little bit. Of course, we can have many kind of casual opinions, but opinions can honestly become quite deeply entrenched within ourselves. You know, they can become these rigid places in our mind where we have decided that something is true, that something is definite or for sure. And these places where there's no movement within ourselves, they become kind of blocked. The flow of light, the flow of energy within us, they block movement, opinions that become kind of strongly held. They block movement of light within us. So opinions that we hold very strongly to, you know, we can call that a kind of like personal dogma. Yeah. And when we have these intensely held opinions, we can resist growing and changing and evolving due to those opinions. So they hold us pinned down. They hold us as lesser than we otherwise would be. So when we have strongly held opinions, you know, we cannot shift and change. We cannot grow. You know, the light really is revealed to us in layers. As we take a step into the light, things are revealed to us. When we take the next step into the light, new things are revealed to us.